I always tell restaurant owners, I go, you could teach hospitality. That's actually the easy part. The hard part is getting them to want to be here, to want to execute at a high level. That's a mindset part, and that's what we focus on. So if you want to train hospitality training, I'm going to show you how to do that. It's actually really simple, okay? I call this training for hospitality the Iceberg training. I call it that because, I want people to picture when they're training hospitality, think of it as an iceberg, right? The top of the iceberg looks huge, right? If you're in a boat near an iceberg, it looks like, gigantic, right? But then underneath it, there's something you don't see, which is even this bigger, massive piece that keeps it afloat. And I want to think about hospitality training the same way, where the top of the iceberg is where a lot of people assume the training lies for the hospitality training, right? And that's where these outward trainings, I call them, come in, right? Where it's like, treat them like they're your family, treat them like they're your friends, treat them like they're your grandma, like they're your best friend, like they're at your house, treat people how you want to be treated. And then they start talking about, hospitality is color, service is black and white, service is transactional, hospitality is experiential, and that's fine, but they all know that, right? And so we're training them on stuff they already know, and we're kind of starting too soon at the top of the iceberg. And so what I like to do is I like to think about this iceberg training, and we want to start at the bottom of the iceberg, okay? And we're creating hospitality. That's absolutely crucial that we start at the bottom of the iceberg. And I call it connecting the dots, right? We want to connect the dots in their head about how to train at a high level. So if we look at these dots, right, if we think about dots, right, in their head, first of all, we want to get them to want them to do their job, and we want them to want to give hospitality, okay? I'm a firm believer that everyone already knows what it is. The top of the iceberg is already taken care of, and I'm going to cover that in a minute. But the bottom is what we want. We want the motivation. We want the buy-in. And so we want to connect the dots in their head. And so that's mindset training, right? And that's where you really, really want to start. Top of the iceberg, that part we can fill in very easily. I can show you how to train that in a heartbeat. At the bottom, though, is a hard part where it's how do we get them motivated and get them bought in and wanting to do it. And so that's mindset training, and we have to get them motivated in a way where they understand that they're not just here for their job, right? They're not just here for this one task. I go into detail about this all the time. I've done lots of training. This is when I go into a live training. If I go into a restaurant, this is what I train on. I always tell the restaurant owners, I go, you could teach hospitality. That's actually the easy part. The hard part is getting them to want to be here, to want to execute at a high level, to want to do what you say that you want them to do. That's a mindset part, and that's what we focus on deeply. And to kind of go over a high-level version of that, what we're really focused on is telling them and getting them to understand that this job is not just a job. Having this is just a job mentality is a paycheck to paycheck mentality. We want more success for them. We want them to be more successful. 90% of successful people were good at every job they did. They don't put limitations on their performance based on their job. So I'm not going to perform well because I'm just doing X, right? This is just a stepping stone job. This is just a job. So I'm not going to give it 100%. If I get that job that I'm really passionate about, if I get that job I'm going to school for, then I'll give 100%, no matter what. Yeah, of course, I'll give 120%. I'm going to be the best ever. But right now, I'm just working at this restaurant. I'm working at this cashier place. I'm working at this clothing store. I'm just filling time. I'm just going to give it 90%, 80%, 70% because it's just a job. Versus a successful person will always think, I'm just going to give the most effort I possibly can. I'm always going to be the best in the room. I'm always going to give 120%. I'm always going to show up as the best version of myself no matter what job I'm performing. It doesn't matter if I'm a freaking janitor. The job is not important. The level of job is not important. The function of the job is not important. If this job is just paying my bills to get me to the next job or to get me to the next location, that doesn't matter. What matters is I perform at a high level, and I am the best in the room no matter what, and I show up as the best version of myself no matter what. That's a successful person's mindset. And then a paycheck to paycheck mindset is, this is just a job, so I'm only going to show up 80%. But what you're doing is building bad habits. And so I go into that deep. I mean, we go way deep into breaking down the psychology. We break down all the objections they'll have before they give it to us and all that stuff. And we slowly but surely get them to understand that and come to a mindset shift where they go, holy crap, they're right. I need to show up for this job. It doesn't matter the job, right? It doesn't matter the page. What matters is I show up. Once we get there, once we get past that bottom of the iceberg, which is really important and why most of the time you get no buy-in, and you end up in a position where it's like, okay, you get three types of people. You get basically someone who's really bought in and rock star, which is few and far between. You're like, if I can clone them, I would. If I had 10 of Brendas, then my life would be so much easier, right? But you only have one. And then you have a good amount of the middle group who are just like kind of like on the fence, right? They perform well some days, they perform okay the other days. Sometimes they frustrate you, sometimes they don't, right? You just kind of like can't really get the movement, right? There's no buy-in. It's kind of just like they're there and they have a pulse, and every now and then they make you happy. And then you have obviously the people who are either going to leave or close to leaving or quietly quitting, where they're just showing up and frustrating the hell out of you. And you're just so irritated by them, right? And they just make you so angry, right? And you're just like, gosh, I got to get rid of this person. So what this does, the mindset thing, is it switches everybody into a gear up, and then it starts propelling them upwards. So if you want to train hospitality training, I'm going to show you how to do that. It's actually really simple, okay? And I tell people this all the time. Everybody has delivered hospitality at a high level in their life already. They understand what it is. They understand what motivated them. They understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, and what they're looking for as a result. So for example, if I were to tell someone, I want you to teach me how to make a margarita. And you're like, oh, I've already taught you how to make a margarita. Like before, that's not going to work, right? I haven't made physically made a margarita. Thing is, everyone has delivered hospitality at a high level for the right motivation. They know why they're motivated. They know how they're motivated. They know exactly what they did to execute it. And they knew what results they were looking for. And I kind of compare it to like a basketball, right? If you ask someone, do you know how to play basketball? Nope, never played a day in my life. So I have no idea how to play. I wouldn't even know where to begin. I have zero skill set in basketball whatsoever. But then they turn around, they crumple up a piece of paper, and they throw it up, and they make it in the basket, right? You're like, wait a minute. You do know how to play basketball. It's like, oh, well, I've never played with like a basketball. It's like, yeah, but you know the function, right? You understand the goal. You bent your elbow. You went up on your toes, right? You had a trajectory. You were looking a certain way. You felt the weight of the paper before you threw it. Like, you know how to play you know some of the basic functions. Now I just got to get you on a basketball court, but you know the functions, and so we know where to start. Hospitality, we're even way further ahead than that. And so I always do this in a room. Because I'll say, I don't care if it's someone who's 16, someone who's 50, no experience, a bunch of experience, doesn't matter, right? So I'll walk in the room and I'll tell them, okay, I want you to picture this. You're going to have the person that you're dating or someone that you're dating over to your house for the very first time to cook them dinner. Very first time. What would you do to prepare for that, right? And I just want people to shout out answers. And all of a sudden, this is where it gets to all of a sudden energy goes way, way through the roof. People start, laughing, having a good time. Oh, I'd clean. I would take a shower. I would buy, new pots and pans. I would light a candle. I would set music. I would control the lighting. I would put cologne on, right? I'd ask them what they like. I'd ask them if they have any allergies. So all these things. I would put on a really nice outfit. And I go, yeah, of course. So if you're having someone to come over, yeah, you're not gonna dress like a slob. You're gonna dress like the best version of yourself, right? You're gonna clean your house so it looks like the best version of your house. You're gonna cook so it looks like the best cooking that you can possibly do. And you're gonna set the light, set the candle. Why are you doing all that stuff? What's your motivation? Why would you do all that? Everyone's like, oh, well, now they start shouting out, well, I want to give them experience. I want them to come back. I want them to tell their friends and family. I want them to have an amazing experience, right? And I go, exactly. You're putting on the best performance. You're giving them everything you have, right? There's no book. There's no playbook. You're not reading this out of a book. No one's telling you what to do. You're just doing naturally everything you can do to make sure that person comes back, to make sure that person tells their friends and family, oh my gosh, I just had this amazing experience with this person, right? You're doing everything you can to give them a feeling, to impress them, to wow them. You're not saying, hey, so they're coming over for food. I'm gonna have the food ready and I'm gonna walk in, I'll be like, here you go, you can sit right there and there's a fork, and then watch them eat, and then when they're done eating, you'll be like, okay, you can leave and I'll clean this up, right? You're not gonna be transactional. You're gonna actually give them experience, talk to them, try and make them laugh, try and make them have a good time, something that they can actually remember, right? And you're gonna create a whole ambiance by messing with the lighting, by putting on music, by making sure it's nice and clean, by making something they like, having a drink ready that they actually then enjoy. All those little details you're trying to put together matter. That's hospitality. We just gotta apply that at this restaurant. I don't care if you're a freaking busser. You can still apply it. When you see a table and you're about to go interact, how can you apply that same mindset to that interaction, right? We have to connect the dots for them. So first we have to start with a mindset shift. We have to get them, it's like the breakup. I don't know if you've seen that movie with Vince Vaughn where him and Jennifer Aniston get a fight because she's like, she's like, you're supposed to be doing the dishes and you're watching the game. And finally he gets up, he's like, all right, I'll do the dishes. And she's like, no. I want you to want to do the dishes. And he was like, okay, I just said I'll do the dishes. She's like, no. I want you to want to do the dishes. And even though it's a funny, very, very funny scene, it's very true, right? You want them to want to do this stuff, not want them to keep their job. You want them to want to do these things, and that's where the mindset shift comes in. It's really important where we show them, you want to do this, trust me, because this is the biggest payoff that you'll ever have across the board, whether you're working here or somewhere else, right? When we as owners and leaders want to leave them off better than we found them. We want to have a huge impact on their lives so they're as successful as possible, meaning they chose to take a job here. Not only are they getting paid and learning new things, but they're also going to have such a huge mindset shift that's going to change their lives forever. Like, that's a responsibility and an opportunity that we have for every employee that we hire. So we start with the mindset shift, and then we go up above the iceberg, and then we can talk about connecting the dots. We're like, this is hospitality, and then we fine tune it, right? Okay, now here's the touch points that we want you to actually communicate with the guest. We're gonna have some sort of interaction with the guest. Then we deliver that hospitality that we were talking about, right? We picture like it's the first person we're cooking for the first time. What are we doing? How are we trying to impress them? We're not worried about the reaction. We're worried about, even if they had a negative reaction, we're trying to shift that reaction back. All those little things matter. So remember, connect the dots both under the iceberg and above the iceberg.